Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that literally rewrote music history and sparked a global phenomenon unlike anything we've ever seen before, BTS. But honestly, what's so fascinating here is that this isn't just your standard pop success story. It actually follows a classic hero's journey. It's this massive tale of survival, sheer resilience, and an almost impossible triumph. Together, we're going to explore how 7 young men went from a tiny, virtually unknown agency in South Korea, facing absolutely incredible odds, to entirely dominating global stages like the Grammys and the United States. So get ready because we are exploring exactly how their blood, sweat, and tears transformed them into the voice of an entire generation.
Okay, let's dive right into this. What is your dream? Now, think back to 2013. The K-pop industry was heavily monopolized by a few massive entertainment companies. For a group from a tiny agency called Big Hit Entertainment to even survive, let alone succeed, was considered an absolute miracle. But on June 13th of that year, BTS debuted with this fiery, anti-establishment hip-hop track called No More Dream. And they didn't just sing your standard catchy pop lyrics. They directly challenged societal expectations, famously asking their peers that very question: what is your dream? It was a gritty, intense call to adventure, pushing back against the restrictive paths laid out by adults and fighting the social prejudices directed at youth.
But as you can imagine, the world wasn't immediately kind to them. They faced really harsh criticism and prejudice simply because they came from a small agency. So what did they do? They retreated into a tiny practice room and just worked. We're talking 10+ hours a day. In that single, cramped room, all 7 members lived together, shared some pretty intense financial hardships, and basically engaged in some hardcore, rapid prototyping of their art. They were constantly building quick, rough drops of their choreography and music to test their core ideas out on each other before refining the mind-bending details of their fiercely synchronized dancing, which is known as kalgunmu. If you try to imagine the sheer chaos of 7 teenage boys living and working in one tiny space, the fact that this intense, shared struggle forged an unbreakable, familial bond is just incredible. That bond, that became their ultimate superpower.
Let's move along and see how this all builds over time, because you'll notice a constant state of reinvention. What really sets BTS apart is that their music is intensely personal. Members like RM, Sugar, and J-Hope were heavily involved in writing and producing right from the start, pouring their most authentic anxieties, their loneliness, and their frustrations directly into the lyrics. By chronologically tracking their eras on this roadmap, we can see exactly how they evolved from these rebellious underdogs fighting a rigid system into record-breaking global superstars who genuinely chronicled the pain and the joy of growing up. A massive, absolute turning point arrived for them in 2015 with their Hwayang Yenhwa era. Rather than projecting these tough, unbreakable personas like they had been, they totally shifted gears and embraced deep emotional vulnerability. They explored the fleeting beauty of youth, sure, but also its incredible fragility and its pain. And man, did it resonate. When their lead track, I Need You, earned them their very first music show win, the members openly wept on stage. It was this highly emotional moment where their relentless, grueling effort finally yielded visible, undeniable results. Now, what's truly fascinating here is how BTS fundamentally changed the game for fan engagement. They didn't just release music, they built an intricate global puzzle. By brilliantly utilizing mixed media, they combined entirely different tools and formats, pairing digital platforms, short films, cryptic clues, and physical storylines all across their music videos to create the deeply layered BTS universe. Suddenly, fans around the world weren't just passively listening, they were actively collaborating on social media, theorizing and decoding the entire world BTS had built. It dramatically closed the distance between the artist and the audience. By 2016, with their album Wings and the massive hit Blood, Sweat, and Tears, they evolved yet again. They really leaned into the remix method here, taking inspiration from 2 completely different genres and merging them into an entirely new hybrid. They took the gritty, rebellious hip-hop of their early roots and boldly merged it with highly artistic, alluring aesthetics and deep literary themes of temptation and conflict. And this brilliant hybrid completely shattered expectations. It propelled them to sweep the Daesong, or grand prizes, at major Korean music awards. They had undeniably arrived as top-tier artists. But let's be real for a second, none of this works without the perfect alchemy of these 7 specific individuals. Let's look at this synergy. We have RM, the intellectual compass, philosopher, and fluent English speaker steering their global ship. Jin, the eldest, proudly claiming the title of worldwide handsome while providing incredible emotional vocals and keeping the team's atmosphere light. Suga, the genius producer who takes his past adversity and inner struggles and turns them into profound healing music. J-Hope, the main dancer. He's a strict perfectionist in the studio, but he is literally the radiant hope of the team. Jimin, combining the fluid grace of contemporary dance with a breathtaking high-tone voice and angelic care for his members. V, blending these soulful, deep baritone vocals with a super unique artistic flair inspired by jazz and classic arts. And finally, Jungkook, who left home at just 15 to basically be raised by his members, growing into the golden maknae, a powerhouse excelling at absolutely everything. Together, their balance is pure magic.
And joining those 7 is their absolutely vital partner, ARMY. Now, this is not just your everyday fan club. This relationship is built on a concept of mutual salvation. BTS says they owe everything to ARMY, and ARMY says BTS's music actually saved their lives. This unprecedented passion and mobilization, where ARMY will literally instantly match the group's charitable donations for social causes, pushed BTS way beyond traditional industry boundaries. This exact bond is what drove them to dethrone massive Western artists and win the Top Social Artist Award at the 2017 Billboard Music Awards, which, by the way, sent absolute shockwaves through the entire music world.
Which brings us directly to you and me. In 2018, during their Love Yourself series, BTS took their powerful message of self-acceptance all the way to the United Nations General Assembly in New York. RM stood up and asked the world, "What is your name? Speak yourself." They urged people to find their own voice and to love who they are. It's a remarkably authentic message that completely transcended language barriers, leading them to sell out mythical venues like Wembley Stadium and the Rose Bowl, with tens of thousands of fans from all walks of life singing along in Korean.
Then 2020 hit. We all know what happened. The pandemic forced the total cancellation of their massive world tour, and the world was plunged into grief and isolation. But instead of just retreating, BTS asked themselves what they could actually do to help. Their answer was a rapid pivot, releasing the bright, insanely uplifting pop anthem Dynamite to bring a little comfort and joy to a lockdown world. And the results? It didn't just bring comfort. It became their first ever #1 on the US Billboard Hot 100, which is an astonishing historical feat. And this brilliantly illustrates how they just kept building. Dynamite was just the beginning. They followed it up with absolute global domination, dropping back-to-back #1 hits like Butter and Permission to Dance. They fully cemented their status as kings of global pop, leading to a solo performance at the Grammys, which, again, was the first ever for a K-pop artist. They were delivering breathtaking, intricate stage performances that completely captivated the global music industry. Yet, amidst all the glittering pop success and broken records, they never once lost their emotional core. With their 2020 album B and the track Life Goes On, they delivered a much-needed, warm message of comfort. They didn't just present themselves as these flawless, untouchable superstars. They showed their own wounds, their confusion, and their shared pain over the pandemic. That deep, raw sincerity, their willingness to just be human in front of millions of people, is the exact reason they are so profoundly loved. In 2022, after releasing their massive anthology album Proof to cap off an incredible 9-year run, they announced a bold pivot. Chapter 2. This was a time for individual exploration and fulfilling their mandatory military service in South Korea. And the solo projects that followed were spectacular expressions of their highly diverse identities. J-Hope explored some pretty dark challenges. Jin delivered warm, beautiful ballads. RM dived deep into art and hip-hop. Jimin brought ultra-sophisticated pop. Suga unleashed an intense world tour. V leaned into laid-back jazz moods. And Jungkook? Well, he basically conquered the globe as a solo pop titan. Yet, underneath all of this individual success, their love for their home base, BTS, remained absolute. So the crucial point here, through all of this transition, is a promise. Facing the massive hurdle of military conscription, starting with Jin at the end of 2022, they didn't leave their fans in despair. They made a firm, completely unbreakable vow. They will reunite as a complete group in 2025. And even while serving, they had meticulously prepared tons of music and mixed media content in advance, basically ensuring that their presence and their message continue to comfort ARMY on the charts and in their hearts. 7 members, one unbreakable brotherhood. With Jin and J-Hope already returning from service to massive global celebration, the gears are absolutely in motion. Every passing day brings us closer to that promised reunion, when all 7 members step back onto that stage together, enveloped in their signature sea of purple light. It is poised to be one of the most dramatic, emotional, and triumphant moments in modern music history. The journey of BTS is just such a powerful reminder that you do not have to be perfect to be worthy. They struggled, they failed, they hurt, and they turned every bit of that into a legendary message of self-love that has literally saved millions. Their story is living proof that pure passion and an unwavering belief in your team can genuinely change the world. So as we watch this incredible story unfold toward their massive 2025 reunion, I'll leave you with this. How will you practice loving yourself